So hello and welcome back to Telf Rugby, and I'm pleased to announce I've got former Leinster, Wasps and London Irish star and my cousin Brendan Macken on. How are you, Brendan?
Great, Alistair. Thanks for having me.
No worries. So you've just recently announced your retirement. How's that feeling now? Just chilling a bit more, or are you missing it already?
No, it's quite nice, really. To be honest, I think I'm quite lucky in a way, as strange as it sounds. I picked up an injury November 1 year ago, and kind of the writing was on the wall just after Christmas. So I kind of knew that it would probably be touch and go whether I'd be able to play. And then obviously with the pandemic and stuff like that, it was an all right time to get prepared for life after rugby. But yeah, so far so good.
No, good stuff. We'll go back to the very start. I don't know if you remember, my first rugby memory of you was when you ripped my shirt a Holy Communion once playing touch rugby outside when you're in your Black Rock days. But can you kind of tell me about how important was kind of Black Rock in your rugby development, and what were your memories from there?
You probably remember that shirt because it was a Liverpool shirt, probably, was it? Yeah, I think my school days were great. I think obviously when you go to a big rugby school like Blackrock, and the different people that's come out and ended up as professionals, um, you're in almost a great breeding ground to go and do that. And luckily we had great guidance and great coaches, and thankfully my team was a really successful team with a lot of guys going on to play professional rugby and go on and play for Ireland and stuff like that. And I think I really enjoyed my rugby in Blackrock, and it was really what didn't feel like a chore or to go training, or didn't feel like a job or anything like that. It was just kind of going out and playing with your friends, and thankfully we had quite a good team, so we won most games quite comfortably. So I loved it.
How
Yeah.
many players in your team were kind of went all the way to like international or professional rugby?
So you have the guys who play professionally: myself, Andrew Conway, Geordie Murphy, David Heffernan, Dennis Buckley, and Dylan Fawcett's out playing for America. Actually, he's playing for Rugby United in New York. So there's a fair few of us, and a couple of other guys as well who were pretty talented, who didn't pursue professional rugby, but probably could have if they wanted to.
Yeah, no, definitely. And then I guess a lot of those boys, were you playing with them at kind of under-20s level?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was great. So the you kind of do the whole journey together and stuff. And obviously myself and Andrew Conway, we went into the academy together, and Geordie was just behind us, and we all went out and played. We were in Argentina for our first under-20s World Cup, which was great fun. That's one of the things about rugby. How lucky we are to go and travel. We were in Argentina for 4 weeks, which was brilliant. And following summer, we were in Italy, which was really good. Fortunately, the following summer, we had a really tough pool with England and South Africa, and both those sides, players in those sides went on to be professionals as well, and get capped. But no, it was great, and I got to show how important the pathway is, for success when you end up a pro.
Yeah, I was reading up on, you won the 2010 under 26 nations, and you had the likes of Simon Zebo, John Cooney, Tiernan O'Halloran. Did you feel in that group of players like this was kind of a special generation coming through for Irish rugby, or were you kind of just in the moment and just enjoying playing with a bunch of 19, 20-year-olds?
Yeah, I don't think anyone kind of thought this would be a special group. For example, you look at John, for example, he was at Leinster, then he went to Connacht, and then he kind of found his feet in Ulster and kicked on from there. I think, with obviously we knew we had a really good team. Rhys Ruddock was the captain. It's great to see him back selected in the Irish squad today. I think we knew we had ability, but to be honest, we were probably more looking forward to the following year than that first year.
Yeah, no, definitely. Then moving on, you made your senior debut against Glasgow at the end of the 2009-10 season. How did that feel, and how was that step up then from, you're obviously just out of school, How did that feel? Maybe as an 18-year-old playing with people you watched on TV just a few months ago.
Yeah, it was incredibly special. You know, making your debut for your home your home club that you, like you said, that you supported, that you would have stood in the stands watching from when you were 5 or 6 to go and do that was an extremely proud moment for me and my family. Um, and to do it away from home and against Glasgow was great. And I remember it like it was yesterday. It was in Firhill, the old Glasgow stadium. So no, it was great.
Because a lot of people say it's kind of just a blur when you think back on games or your debut and stuff. Do you remember like on the pitch quite well, or is it more like the build up and the post game that you remember better?
I kind of remember just a week getting selected, knowing, so I was on the bench knowing, oh, what, like I have a chance of getting capped for Leinster. And then I can't really remember actually the game itself, and just the messages and stuff like that after was really nice. And then I think you kind of want more. You get a taste of it, and you want more, and you want to play the following week, and the appetite for it really increases.
So you spent about 5 years at Leinster, and you were there on a really successful period of time. The 2011 Heineken Cup, the 2012 Heineken Cup, then obviously there was a Challenge Cup along with a few leagues thrown in there as well. How did it feel just training week on week in like such a winning side and just having that winning culture?
Yeah, and that's the thing. There, winning definitely is a habit, and I think at that time we were incredibly lucky to have kind of all those superstars who were playing for Ireland really at the top of their game. And you'd go and you'd play a match, and even if the game wasn't going well, 60 minutes in, or might be getting beaten 5 or 6 minutes to go, you always knew we were going to win. It was just a fantastic belief, and I think everyone was really enjoying their rugby. Everyone was on the same page, and it was, like you said, it was great to learn, and the experiences of playing alongside the likes of Gordon Darcy and Brian O'Driscoll and Johnny Sexton and stuff like that was great.
Was it Michael Cheika that gave you your debut? How was him? I know people say he's quite a character in terms of his approach to player management and stuff. What did you learn under coaches such as like Michael Cheika and then after him, Joe Schmidt?
Um, Czech is really good with young guys. He was fantastic with me. Now I started working with him when I was 18, just come out of school, and he was incredibly positive and instilled so much confidence in me, and I genuinely felt that he believed in me, and you see it all the time, like with wherever he goes, and with Australia there's a couple of 18, 19-year-olds who he's kind of brought through the ranks who've been great, and he'd have said, go out and enjoy yourself, like you've done any experience, no one's expecting anything of you, go out, enjoy yourself, and kind of use what kind of got you here in the first place, and if you do that, you'll be all right. No, he was really good, and he'd always make sure he'd have the senior guys picking you up for little bits and pieces, skill extras or to go through games and stuff like that. So he was really good.
And then they say Joe Schmidt's a bit more school teacher approach. Is he a bit more disciplined and regimented?
Yeah, a little bit. I think they're slightly different in their approaches. Like you said, Joe's an ex English teacher. He kind of had his beliefs on kind of how he wanted to play and how he wanted his teams to play and how he wanted his midfielders to play and that sort of thing. So yeah, he was slightly different, but it works for Joe, and it's worked for the teams he's coached. Because, like you said previously, in the interview, the success Leinster had, and the success Irish rugby had was down to Joe and kind of how he wants to play and his beliefs. But obviously they came undone in the last World Cup when kind of people figured out kind of how Ireland want to play, and this trying to win aerial battles and win the gain line and all this sort of stuff, which was interesting.
Yeah, no, I guess every team has their cycle. And I was just finally on Leinster, I was kind of celebrating those Heineken Cups and stuff as like a wider squad. Did it feel like everyone was part of it, even the men that maybe hadn't played maybe in Europe as much?
Yeah, it did, and that was the great thing about it. Like I think, and that's why Leinster and Irish rugby is so good because there's the young guys do play, and I think Leinster had some crazy stat last year where they used 53 or 54 people in all competitions last year, which is incredible. And I think the important thing about the non-23, for example, the guys in the week who prepare the side to take the field, they have to do their job, Monday to Friday, and make sure the guys who are going out onto the field are organised and are ready to play. And also, if anyone gets injured, that's the time where your opportunity might come, and you don't want to let yourself down or let the team down. So it was fantastic, and like you said, everyone felt part of it, and
And then
really
personally,
enjoyable.
who helped you the most? Maybe not the most, but who was a big influence in terms of maybe a more experienced head when you were coming through in your early 20s at Leinster?
Yeah, Dricko was really good to me. He was really helpful. He's same with Dars, both extremely approachable, personable guys, and they just wanted to help. And I really really enjoyed working with them, and in games they do stuff, and if you knew when they'd carry, and if you got close to them, you might get an offload, and that sort of thing. And always after matches, they'd ask you, how did you think this went, and how do you think, if you did this, and they took a real interest in my career at an early age, which was great.
And then in 2015, you left Leinster to join Gloucester on loan. And then at the end of that season, you joined Wasps permanently. Was that a hard decision leaving your home province?
It wasn't really. I think half of me kind of wanted to go, and the other half of me kind of wanted to stay. But I think I've said previously, I kind of had to go really, because I was probably quite an immature guy, my early 20s. I was like we all are. So I can imagine you're carrying around Liverpool. Um, but I think it was important that I kind of had to go and grow as a person and as an individual, and thankfully I was able to go and do that. And when the club like Wasps wants you to come and play for them, they're English giants who've got a pretty incredible history, and to go and play for them was pretty enjoyable. Something I really enjoyed.
And just in terms of your loan at Gloucester, you don't really see it a lot in rugby in terms of players going on loan. You see it more in football. Does it feel any different, or did it feel like when you went on loan for that 6 months, so that was kind of you out of Leinster?
I just wanted at the time. I just wanted to get game time. I'd been injured and I'd come back from an injury. Wanted to play. Everyone was fit at Leinster, and um, Gloucester was the opposite. There was a lot of injuries. I was kind of thinking about a move, and such perfect timing to kind of almost try it on before you're actually buying it.
Yeah, no, definitely. And then what was it like playing in the Premiership? Because a lot of people say it's a lot more competitive league, a lot higher standard than maybe the Pro 14, which sees a lot of like kind of Irish and Welsh internationals rested. Did you find the Premiership was a step up from playing in Ireland?
Yeah, yeah, it's a completely different league to the Pro 14. It's way more attritional. The atmospheres are incredible. I think the best way to describe it was, I think when you played a Pro 14 game and then when you played a European game, that there was a massive difference. Whereas there's no real difference between a Premiership game and a European game. I think most weeks they feel like it's the same sort of intensity. And I think there's no easy games. Whereas in the Pro 14, you might be able to, the Dragons may come to Dublin and you may end up putting 40 points on them, or get across to one of the Italian sides and do the same. Whereas that doesn't really happen, as you've seen in the Premiership over the last couple of years. Everyone's so competitive. Newcastle have come up this season, after a pandemic, not playing since March, and are sitting pretty quite nicely in the table. So I think that's why the Premiership's so good, because it's so competitive.
And I think you're seeing it as we're feeling Trail Finders as well. They look like they're on the road to possibly being a Premiership side. I know it was
Yeah,
only a
big.
pre-season game, but they're showing already signs of investment.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they're going great guns, and they're based in West London, and it's another club which has a really good following and a really good, kind of the ownership of the club is great, and they've got serious ambitions to get into the Premiership, or they've talked about trying to get into the Pro 14 because they're leaps and bounds ahead of the other sides of the Championship.
And then going back to Wasps, you're playing with international, the likes of James Haskell, Elliot Daly, Willie LaRue. Did you enjoy playing with them? Did you learn different things off them than you would have kind of your Irish players at Leinster?
Yeah, it was a different culture really, and it was it was fun to be honest. It was good fun. Like you see Willie LaRue and Curtly Beale and Charles Piatown, these guys, and they're just kind of they're incredible athletes, and to get to play with those guys was so much fun. And Wasps was a place where it was a really good, nice environment. It was quite relaxed, and the whole message to the players was kind of go out and express yourselves and do what you're good at and all that sort of stuff. And big culture as well. If someone did something well, they'd be told that they'd done something well, which was nice. So yeah, it was a great place to be.
Because I think there was at the 2018 they got to the Premiership final, lost against Exeter, so you must have felt quite involved, especially with playing in plenty of the league games and being a squad effort. And what was that different to like the kind of build up to a big final like that compared to the build up to a load of big finals at Leinster?
I was probably a little bit more involved with Wasps in that build up. So, and obviously with the kind of, we had a really good kind of squad environment. The relationship that kind of all the guys had there was great, and to lose in extra time to Exeter was heartbreaking. I think kind of we were going to go and do it, and obviously we came up short. It's the same then for these guys then. Post lockdown number one when they got picked by Exeter. So yeah, no, it was great. And it's great to be. I was on the travelling reserve that day in the final, and it was incredible. The atmosphere was unbelievable. 80,000 people in Twickenham. It was amazing.
No, it's Premiership finals, kind of one of the biggest games in rugby always. I remember I was listening to the James Haskell podcast, and he was saying on that one of his biggest regrets is losing that final, especially if he's a kind of Wasp man. So it really shows how much it kind of means to Wasp to kind of get back to the winning premierships, and kind of in the mix this year. So I'm sure it'll come. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. They're an extremely proud club, and they've got a great history. And obviously the move from West London, up to the Midlands, up to the Rico, it's been great, and it's kind of taken a couple of years for everyone to kind of pack up and leave London and get the training base and everyone to get settled in the Midlands, and it's starting to work for them.
And then you've openly said about how you let the reason that you left Wasps kind of was out of your control. Do you have any kind of regrets or bad feelings towards that, or was it just a bad situation?
I just think it's one of these things really. Unfortunately, I should have probably gone to speak to the director of rugby and asked him kind of what's going on. But then again, as I said, I was playing. I was in good form. I was pretty sure I kind of had the contract in my back pocket. But I think assumption is the mother of all mess ups. And I think you can't assume these things until you go and you actually sign the dotted line, and everything kind of unraveled quite quickly. And when I went in to speak to them to try and get it all sorted, unfortunately, they, like I said previously in previous interviews, they just assumed I signed elsewhere. They thought, well, you weren't going around the place stressed and all that sort of stuff. But yeah,
how does that work from there? Do you literally just call up clubs, get in contact with agents, and work it out between your group, or do clubs approach you?
So obviously, like, if your agent didn't get banned, they'd phone your agent and see what your availability would be and all that sort of stuff. So that's why you don't really have any involvement with your deal or not. It's left to the agent and the club. But so yeah, when he got banned, obviously then that's when I kind of was agentless. I had a few people contacting me to try and do it for me, but I think now I just didn't. I just kind of wanted to do it myself, really, because I didn't want a third party involved. I kind of wanted to go directly and kind of get yes or no's and that sort of thing. Because it was quite late in the day. It was like February, March time, and most contracts are done. The contracts I've done previously have all been done in October, November time. So once Christmas came around, you kind of want to get your deal done because all the clubs have obviously spent what they have in the salary cap. So when February, March, April comes around, the club's kind of allocations is definitely smaller than what it was previously.
I guess though it worked out quite well, and you moved to London Irish. How did that feel then, going on the flip side of that, kind of being involved into kind of European giants and then going down to the championship and playing there, or was it the same type of professionalism down in the championship?
It was the exact same. I think it was more of like London Irish were, a club which belongs in the Premiership, and for one reason or another they've been kind of yo-yoing up and down from the two leagues, and it was quite good. I suffered quite a bad injury in March, the March before I moved to Irish, and was kind of able to get myself fit and play quite a bit that in that year, which when the club got promoted. So it was fun. I was playing rugby, and thankfully, obviously, we were a good bit better than most of the teams we were playing against, and bonus point victories most weeks, which is great. But yeah, the professionalism was definitely exact same, and wouldn't expect anything less from a Declan Kidney coach team.
And you were involved then on one of the final days, and you scored a try that helped seal promotion. Did you feel was that one of your special rugby moments then, being a real part of that London Irish side and getting them back to the Premiership?
Yeah, it was nice. It was nice to kind of string a fair few games together, which I haven't been able to do down to injury and that sort of thing previously. So it was nice to do that. And it was nice because it was just almost relief, really, of the club kind of getting back to where they want to be and stuff like that. So it was nice to be involved in that. And then obviously it was a pity to get injured so early on in the following season.
No, you were in great form. I think I read up, it was 14 appearances, 6 tries. So you definitely had an eye for the whitewash that year.
Yeah, no, it was good. It was good fun. As I said, to be honest, the opposition wasn't particularly strong.
Is it as it seems when you're going away to Cornish Pirates and stuff, and you're in like a wee box and stuff? Is it really like that, the championship?
Yeah, it's the wild west, Ali. Like, it's just, it's crazy. A friend of mine played for Bristol a couple of years previously, and he actually lost his kicking tee on the pitch. It was so muddy, there was no grass, quite a thin kicking tee. Kicked it, and he rolled on, and they scored a try again, and the water boy said, "I can't find your tee anywhere." But yeah, no, it's different. It's difficult for the guys in the championship who play for, the smaller teams, and they probably don't get treated how they should get treated. And it's difficult and everything which has happened with the pandemic and stuff like that. So the championship's going to be quite an interesting place actually moving forward, obviously, because the RFU have cut some of the funding, and some of the teams don't have as much money as they had to spend, and the models could be going to a kind of pro amateur kind of Tuesday, Thursday night. So guys will be looking for work and then looking to play alongside that. So it'll be interesting times.
Yeah, no, and there's obviously talk about ring fencing the Premiership and all, and that's a big debate where no one really knows what will happen, but usually the money that speaks in that sense.
Yeah. I wish God no. I think I'm not sure what's going to happen there and what people are saying about it, but you can imagine the clubs who can't survive in the Premiership. We'll probably stay there, and you see, kind of seeing how well Newcastle are doing, and obviously Irish are doing all right now that they've come back up 2 years ago, and you wouldn't be shocked if Saracens and Ealing both came up and they ring fences. I know that's what Ealing are trying to do anyway. But it'd be interesting to see what happens. But I definitely think they'll ring
it's
fence.
great that you've kind of had that, to be able to see the Championship and the Premiership and so many other leagues. I guess moving on to maybe a darker place is kind of the injury side of sport and kind of the psychological effect that plays. I followed your career quite well, and I remember I think it was 2016 when you were in good form playing in Europe for Wasps. You scored a try against Harlequins and stuff, and then I think you picked up maybe a concussion at the Kingspan, and there's been other times in your career you're out for previously, as you said about you were out for 11 months and just came back at the end of your career. How does it feel when, especially you're like getting into the side, and then that feeling of the team doesn't really wait for you to come back, it will just pick someone else and continue?
I think that's just people look at professional sport and just assume it's really glamorous, but to walk in the shoes, for the last 10, 11 years, it's not that glamorous. Obviously it's great. There's so many fantastic things about it, which are just brilliant. But like you said, there's also difficult things and things, unfortunately, that you can't control. And injuries is one of them. And for me, it was just, I think, I just always seemed to pick up an injury at an important time. Like you said, the concussion of the Kingspan just was such awful timing, because I was able to get a couple of games together and go back to an Irish province in Europe on a big stage, and hopefully to deliver another big performance. And I get myself knocked out after 10 minutes. It's just
Uncontrollable.
we can smile about it now, but I won't lie, it's incredibly frustrating, and it's incredibly annoying. And I think that's just what you sign up for, and that's just what happens. And with the injury then in November, with London Irish, I really knuckled down the preseason before, and we had one of the best preseasons I've had in a long while. And then to go and pick up that injury at the side of a ruck, just not even near the ball, it was just, yeah, it was frustrating. And kind of when it rains, it really pours. And that's just, like I said, that's just professional sport, and you can do nothing about it. And like you said, also, the team doesn't wait for you. So no matter who you are, Brian O'Driscoll to, Rory Telfer, like it'll take you 7 or 8 games to get back into form. No one can just come back from a 7-month injury and expect to play amazing rugby. It takes time. And if you are out injured and there's guys who come in and played and they've played well, they're just not going to go and pick you because you're being picked before you're injured. Those opportunities might be a bit less frequent as they were before. And it's difficult because that's what everyone craves, is just a run of games, 5, 6, 7 games, and then you're kind of up and you're in form then. But yeah, I think that's just it. And I kind of learned early on in my career that injuries do happen. I picked up quite a significant shoulder injury in 2008. I also kind of had my first big surgery. I had one of my early starts for Leinster, I got injured against Aroni. I broke my collarbone. I was in Vincent's Hospital before half time. And so I kind of learned early on that injuries are part of the game, and how you deal with them, you need to use them as a positive, and you need to use them as motivation to get back, because if you don't, then you could find yourself in a pretty bad place, physically and mentally. And thankfully I was able to, I had great people around me, which I'm so grateful for. And I always try to use my injuries as a reset, and then to try and make sure I come back in really good shape, fighting for a position.
Yeah, because I know they say like making it is kind of a professional athlete. A lot of it is just luck involved with having a run of games and staying fit, and that is definitely, along with obviously talent, that's definitely a real part of it to kind of break into sides. Would you find as well, in terms of trying to rush back from injuries and all, sometimes you would play when you're not 100% fit, because us at home as fans just watching the TV might be having a go at a player having a bad day, but we don't know he could be 60% fit. Like, it's probably hard to get your body fully back to where it needs to be.
Yeah, it's difficult. And there might be guys who are 85% fit. There's nothing actually technically wrong with them, but they're just banged up and bruised from the week before. And they've played so much rugby that they're just mentally a little bit off it, physically a little bit off it, and it's incredibly demanding. But that's the thing. I think no one should play if they're not, 85 to 90% fit, because you're just going to let yourself down. You're going to let the team down. You're going to have people like you shouting at them from home.
No. Well, I was having a fair shout at Munster team not getting that result for Ulster the other night.
No.
Hopefully they didn't hear me. And then finally, just what would your advice be to a young player wanting to go down the road of being a professional rugby player in terms of training, or how to approach the mental side of it?
I would say just control everything that you can control. Don't control if you're going to get picked, because you can't. Fortunately, nobody can control that. So don't control, things which are irrelevant, and don't get hung up on anything. If someone else does in your position does something, compare yourself to yourself only, and control the controllables but also enjoy it, because it's an incredible privilege to be able to play professional sport, and to represent your different clubs and stuff like that. And that's why I look back and I think of my career and I always smile, even though I picked up different injuries along the way and there was different setbacks along the way. But it was great, and that's the most important thing, to enjoy it and play with a smile on your face, because rugby will end one day, and you don't want to finish up and sit on the couch and say, I wish I did this and that, or I wish I enjoyed it more, or I wish I did this. And so my advice would be control the controllables, and try and enjoy it as best you can.
Now that relates to one of my favorite sayings, and is the play for the boy that fell in love with the game. I remember before one of our schools cup games, I said that quote and got a bit of a laugh. People thought I wasn't being serious, but my favorite quote anyway, because it's true in some states.
It is true, and that's why I love my rugby in Blackrock so much, because it was just genuine fun. It was literally it was great fun. Throwing a ball around with your friends, and it was fun, and I really enjoyed that. But no, you're dead right.
I guess then, what's next for you in terms of life?
So obviously, I've as I've said in an interview before, a good friend of mine, Sam Jones, suffered a fractured dislocation of his ankle when I was living with him. Probably going to go on and play for England. Big club captain at Wasps, and kind of when that happened to him, I didn't really know kind of what my plan B was. So I kind of sought some work experience in financial services, and been lucky enough to be in with the company for a couple of years now, and on the kind of working one day a week, especially when I came back down to London. It made it quite easy to get into the city, and thankfully they've given me a job. So yeah, working away in that sector at the moment, and my fiance is really happy with her job, and our daughter Mia is in nursery, happy 8. So yeah, all's gone pretty well at the moment.
No, it's good. It's good to hear, and I'm sure you'll have as many challenges in the finance sector as you did on the rugby pitch.
Absolutely. Hopefully, anyway. Yeah, sure. A good challenge is always good, isn't it?
You need challenges to be successful in it.
You do indeed.
Could we just finish with maybe just a wee quick fire, and then you just reply with one. I'll ask a question, you reply with just a quick answer, just one word.
Yeah, I'll try and make it one word.
Right. So, I guess the first one. What's the best thing to eat after a game?
Lasagna in zebra.
Worst thing about lockdown?
One word's pretty hard. Give you 2 words. No beer.
Who's the funniest teammate you've ever come across?
Joe Simpson.
Joe Simpson. Interesting. What's the best player you've ever played against?
Played against Charles Pieta.
I'm with
Charles Pieta.
What's your favorite rugby memory?
Probably scoring my first try for Leinster against the Dragons in the RDS.
It's a good one to have. Do you have that photo anywhere?
I do. It's in my mum's house, just as you walk in the door. So, the first thing you see.
Thank you very much, Brendan, for coming on and chatting for your career, and best of luck with your now new venture in the finance world.
Thank you, and thank you very much for having me, and good luck moving forward to yourself. No doubt you'll be a great success, and it was great to chat.
Cheers, Brendan.
Thanks.